6 months after Karen Reed was found not guilty of all major charges against her, the status of her Lexus is still up in the air, even though, they gave it back to her. We have an update.
You lost. And you know what you did.
The Lexus, Karen Reed's famous SUV that was shown backwards, inverted, whatever you want to call it. The status is still up in the air. I'm attorney Andrew Myers. This is About the Law with an update. Joining me, California attorney Yoli Medina. Hey, Yoli, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. I mean, we've taken our eyes off of some of the details of the criminal trial because so much is going on with the civil trial mess that a lot of people had forgotten about the SUV, Karen Reed's Lexus. So 6 months after Karen Reed was found not guilty of all major charges, the Lexus is sitting in an auto repair shop in Weymouth, Massachusetts, where the owner, who we're going to talk with in just a second, said he'd fix it all up, but there's a snag. Yoli, you remember the whole controversy over the Lexus being shown backwards and forwards, right?
Yeah, the inverted video and the testing with the expert with the blue paint. Although that wasn't her. That was the one they bought, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then there were questions about the fact that the first day that John O'Keefe had been found on the lawn on Fairview Drive in Canton, that particular day, even though they used a leaf blower to blow the snow away, they found no taillight pieces. But later on, when the SUV was seized and there was some jump cuts in the video in the Sallyport in Canton, then mysteriously these pieces of taillight started to appear. And the tail has been repaired. But what's happened here is I was listening to Howie Carr, a Boston syndicated radio guy who was with us in a very recent episode, and we interviewed him. Great interview, I thought. And all of a sudden, Howie starts talking to this fellow, Bill Broussard, down in Weymouth. And Mr. Broussard said, guess what? Karen Reed's SUV is still in my shop.
Karen Reed's vehicle is still there.
Karen Reed's vehicle is still there, so people can see it if they want.
Yeah, they can come down and see Karen Reed's vehicle.
Have you ever gotten the new electronic system put back in it?
No, so that's still broken, and they don't want to pay for it, so it's a $15,000 broken radio.
I think Howie was talking about a promotion that he's having for his book. I don't think that the poor owner of the shop in Weymouth, Massachusetts, wants people just walking willy-nilly into his shop. They're talking about, as you know, Howie recently, and I wasn't intending this to be a promotion, but here's Howie's very recent book, and he was going down to that auto repair shop in Weymouth to have a book signing, and he was just talking about the book signing, and all of a sudden, Bill Broussard, who you just heard, said, yeah, the car is still there. The car is still there. And it's because we wanted to fix everything up, but it would cost $15,000 for the info center that the Commonwealth messed up.
So if she sues the Commonwealth, I mean, would she get reimbursed for that to get it fixed, or shouldn't they be fixing it now? I mean, they messed it up.
Well, here's what happened. Well, Howie's going to get into that in just a second, but the way they got into that was because, do you remember at the end of the trial, there was some question as to whether the Commonwealth was going to return 2 cell phones and Karen Reed's Lexus, and a motion was brought, and then Adam Lally brought a motion, and the court by Judge Canoni in late July, early August said, okay, yes, you can release the car, not the phones, but the Lexus. You can release that to Karen Reed. And so on September 8th, a couple months after the trial, the Lexus was towed. The Mass State Police, on Judge Canoni's order, towed the car or allowed the car to be towed to this auto shop in Weymouth, Massachusetts, where it sits to this date. And the owner of the shop said, I'll fix it up for free. And he spent a couple of $1,000s replacing the taillight, as we're going to hear in a minute. We're jumping ahead here. But $15,000 for the center console that was destroyed.
Yeah, that doesn't, and they found her not guilty. So it's like, well, what's the remedy for that? A civil rights action? I mean, how do what do you do? Submit an invoice and say pay it? Or, I mean, that's crazy.
I understand, Bill, and you understand why. We all understand why they had to take it apart, right?
Yeah.
But if you take something apart, it shows kind of like what they say in the antique store: you broke it, you bought it, right? Isn't it their responsibility?
Put it back together.
Yeah, I mean,
I would think so.
What can she do with it when it's there's no electronic system? I mean, I guess she could still theoretically drive it around, but what happens if it starts raining or sleeting?
Yeah, so that's the infotainment system for the whole vehicle, which has all the data. So you're not going to have GPS, you're not going to have radio, satellite radio, or anything. So
not even windshield wipers, though, right? Doesn't it control windshield wipers?
No, I think the wipers work. It's
okay.
Just any of the electronics to do with the radio, GPS, climate control system. So that's not working right now. So we have to figure that out.
That's really something. So is Steve Buzang, is he her lawyer in some of the cases? Is he trying to get some payment? I mean, like they got $4 billion for the flop houses for the foreign freeloaders. They don't have $15,000 to repair a damaged system that they damaged in a woman's car when they were trying to frame her for a murder she didn't commit. I mean, it really is outrageous, isn't it, Bill?
It's outrageous. It's really outrageous.
Wow. So how's the car look otherwise? If you got it in good shape?
Yeah, the car's pristine. I mean, it shines like a dime. It's all serviced. It smells good again. As we know, it had rodents living in it, so it smelled like rodent urine. But the thing's crystal clean. We replaced the tail light. It really looks good back there. It doesn't really look like it had any impact at all.
The Commonwealth really preserved. I mean, this is evidence. I thought you're supposed to preserve evidence in its original form, and they're allowing rodents into the thing. I mean, really? That's the condition in which the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, by the Massachusetts State Police, released Karen Reed's Lexus to the body shop that she picked?
That is, it almost seems, and I don't want to, it almost seems intentional, like, here, take your damn car.
Doesn't it? Doesn't it really? We hate this woman. We know that she, offed her boyfriend. We just know it. He was a cop. So yeah, we're going to let the rats go in there and do whatever they do.
I mean, it's so nasty. I don't even know. I mean, I'm in the Karen Reed case, to me, they just didn't prove that she hit him. That's all. They didn't prove that she hit him. And there was a lot of shenanigans going on about the inverted video and the brake light, the tail light. But I mean, they didn't prove she hit him. So what is the problem here? Why do they hate her so much? It seems like they hate her so much. And
yeah, their own experts were kind of shady. Remember the one, and this always upsets you, but that's not why I'm saying it, is that that one expert, was lying about having a bachelor's degree, which she had been working on for like 17 years.
Oh my God, I would get fired if I did that. I mean, the state bar would be furious with me if I did that.
And you're right. They never proved that. The first shot they had at it, the first failed shot they had at it was Joseph Paul, who said the crime scene spoke to him. And he also said that what he saw was consistent with a side hit, not a rear end hit, which had been their theory all along. So, they had two shots at it. They were frustrated, so they just let the rats, get in the car. Two real quick points before we hear from Howie again. The broken taillight that was central to both trials against Karen Reed was in fact replaced with a brand new one. The auto shop in Weymouth, JB Auto Care, did get a new tail light assembly. And it's not as simple in the old days, just going down to the hardware store and getting yourself a reflective light and, using a screwdriver to attach to the car. No, these are complicated things that have a lot of electronics in them. So that was replaced. And the infotainment system is central to cars. It is described as like a large phone module that was taken apart. Some chips were removed. So it's not salvageable anymore. So the navigation system and other components are inoperable. So that's really a problem. If somebody told you, Yola, you need $15,000 to get your car back on the road, what are you saying?
Well, is the car worth? I mean, is it like, how much is a car worth? I mean, I would tell them they have to do it. I guess you could sue them.
Yeah. Well,
and
it's
get it that way.
the auto body shop is actually the good guy in this. They promised to fix it all up, and I would only guess that they had no idea what they were dealing with in terms of the infotainment system. And so Howie and the owner of the car shop then kind of speculated about the future of Karen Reed's SUV.
774, that Lexus should be auctioned. It might fetch a nice take considering it's now a celebrity's car and has an infamous history. I think that's the ultimate plan, but it's there's still a few more steps. I'm not sure she's got the title back yet either, and again, they got to fix up the electronic system. I mean, I don't care, if you sell it as an antique or something, you got to have the system working. It's really so obnoxious. They got all this money for everything else. They got $12 million plus for free phone calls for prison inmates, right? I mean they've spent all that money. They were going to take $900 million less on the Turnpike service plazas. They didn't care about the $900 million, but they can't come up with $15,000 to fix Karen Reed's car after trying to frame her twice for murder. Twice.
Yeah, that's a good point. The Massachusetts budget, which I used to actually cover some of the Massachusetts budgetary hearings. Massachusetts spends an awful lot of money on all kinds of stuff, and going over the budget will just make your eyes glaze over. So Howie's point is like 12. There's the tail assembly going on to the vehicle. They fixed it. It was no longer broken. And in Michael Proctor's bag of tricks, there Mr. Proctor is, showing the taillight to the jury. There's the infotainment system in the center. Actually, that's the. Go ahead. That's
Go ahead.
The center of the vehicle in the front where the infotainment system should be. This is the owner, Bill Broussard, of the auto body shop in Weymouth, which is about 15 miles from Boston, depending on where you're driving from, where you're driving to. And this is the infotainment module as it was shown to the jury. And I believe that video we just showed was from trial number 2. And there is the SUV in the garage. And just what a saga. What a saga this case has been. And the Commonwealth, I think, just wants out. I think they just want out. They don't want anything to do with this.
It's terrible.
As Howie pointed out, they spend billions on other things. And you would think after this, maybe, Karen Reed did file the case against Michael Proctor et al. And we don't get into the specifics of dollar amounts for damages. We don't do what's called an ad damnum clause in Massachusetts. So, that is certainly something that they could add in. I mean, the damages are far greater than this in her civil case. The deprival of civil rights for over 3 years, to the point where she ran up over $5 million of legal fees, and she had, she lost 2 excellent jobs. She lost her house. I mean, those damages far exceed the $15,000, but you would think the Commonwealth could throw her a bone.
Yeah, they could add it in there. But I assume she's without a car unless she's using a car or had to buy a car. but still, it's her car, and they dismantled it.
Well, remember, as a condition of her being found guilty on the drunk driving charge, I believe that her driving privileges were suspended for a year. So that's my memory of that, and I'll double check that and put something down in the bottom to confirm or deny that. But what a story! What a story! Now
Yeah.
uh,
It's just
it's just
on
never
and
ends.
on.
We intended this to be a relatively brief episode, just on the fact that we got an update on the car 6 months after the not guilty finding. But I think we have time for a couple of comments. Now, these comments are on the Brian Walsh trial that's ongoing at this time. Do you want the odds or the evens?
I'll take the evens.
Okay, so Made of Questions says, maybe it's not extremely convenient for Tipton to have to call his client a liar, but what else is there? If not my client lied, then what? There's nothing else. Even if we suspend reality and go with Brian is innocent and Anna just dropped dead in her sleep, the fact remains his client didn't say that. His client lied. I dislike these particular cops that investigated Walsh immediately, and I want them to be wrong and for them to be liars. But in this case, at a minimum, Tipton's client lied. And I made some comments earlier about, I didn't think that was a great way to open the Walsh trial, but we will get back to the Walsh trial in the very, very, very near future. I think Attorney Tipton has scored some points in terms of vigorous cross-examination of the Massachusetts State Police. So we'll get back to that trial. I promise we'll get back to it.
This is from Michael Breen. Best way to dispose of body parts after a murder. That search by Brian Walsh seals it for me. Guilty murder one.
Well, I think a lot of us agreed with that. I think a lot of us thought that. I don't know. It's
But
that
here's
just
the thing: the searches that were mentioned in the court, they're under the penalty of perjury. Whatever that means nowadays, but still, there's a penalty of perjury. And when they were talking about Brian Koberger's searches, that was not under the penalty of perjury. It was just experts talking to News Nation about what they found on his phone. So there's a difference. And so when you hear this in a court of law where it's vetted, it's in evidence, the court is accepting it as evidence. When you hear this, it does make an impact. Like, wow, this is something that was searched on his computer, and it was likely who did it.
Technically, I agree with everything you said, except for technically, they found it on a 6-year-old son's device.
Oh,
but
did
you
you
know
hear,
that.
But did
What?
you hear that that the 6-year-old son's device was synced with his computer, so that if he did it on his computer, it would show up on the kid's phone? I mean, not
Yeah, now that you say that, I do recall the expert saying that Nick Carino, if we can call him an
Yeah.
expert, Nick Carino said, and I found that to be true. Apple devices do, mesh. They do sync. I know that if I do something on my iPhone, it carries over to my very old iPhone. I bought an iPhone early on when they first came out, and I wasn't impressed with the functionality of it. And I think it's just a matter of personal preference, because I know people that love them. Comment down below what an idiot I am because I don't like iPads. In any event, let's move along to number 3. I thought Rosemary Scapicchio was Walsh's attorney. I'm not watching the trial, so I'll rely on your expert summaries. Thank you. As for Turtle Boy, there should only be one sentence spoken by the judge. Prosecution ignored my order to respond by a certain date. Therefore, this case is dismissed with prejudice. Well, no. Rosemary Scapicchio represents another defendant. His name is King. And Rosemary Scapicchio represents a different defendant. They had held hearings together under the Walsh case docket because their cases all had been investigated by Michael Proctor, and the attorneys wanted to hear whether they could, and in the end they did, get materials from Michael Proctor's phone. So that is the answer to the first question. The answer to the second question, agree with me or disagree, Yoli. We didn't talk about this before. When you miss a court deadline, there are various remedies, and dismissing the case isn't always one of them. Although my opinion is that, the prosecutor, Robert Cosgrove, just intentionally knew he could get away with it and just intentionally blew by the deadlines, knowing it could get away with it. So I don't think that necessarily dismissing the case is the remedy for that wrong, but I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think there's some discretion that the court has whether to accept the late filing or not. Cosgrove did put in the declaration that he was having trouble getting the information to oppose the motion, and he at least said that, and that I guess Mello was ill
Right.
and unable to respond. But I wouldn't say that this would be grounds for just dismissing the case with prejudice. I would say that Mr. Cosgrove deserves a spanking.
I
He
agree.
deserves a you should follow my orders. And at least, I mean, because the other side doesn't know what's going on with Cosgrove. I mean, he explained it in his declaration, but he explained it late. How's the other side, the defendant, going to know what's going on if they don't respond? And only Cosgrove knows, and he's not telling them anything.
I think one of the remedies would be to strike portions of the response by Mr. Cosgrove, just strike part of it. A lot of it just wandered around and had nothing to do with the actual mega motion. A lot of it just was, flowery language. I don't know if he was trying to impress us that he has, this vocabulary that's arcane, or what he was trying to do. I don't. So there are other remedies for that. Number 2.
That's me. Mal Speranza. It's too bad for us since it won't be televised, but a federal judge is likely to be much less biased than a Massachusetts state judge.
Let me just interject here. I'm sorry. Let me just interject. The other comments went to the Walsh case. Now we're jumping back into the Karen Reed case. Sorry.
The removal of the Karen Reed case.
Right. The removal. Right.
Okay. And then it says, there's no way in hell this was ever going to be consolidated. Overall, a good thing. And Karen Reed's attorneys signaled weeks ago that they themselves were considering requesting this removal. I didn't know that.
Well, we remains to be seen. I mean, the case can be remanded back to the state, and there's some time left to do that. So we just don't know. Our final comment for this episode is from Made of Questions. I have questions too. We all have questions. I could give Walsh the benefit of the doubt to begin with, but why, after he's busted, would he not give the location of her body? You'd want a medical examination to find the cause of death if she truly just died. Maybe it's the condition at that point. Maybe he's thinking the body would cause more harm than good, but I'm not sure if they're getting to reasonable doubt. Yeah, that's a good question. Is the fact that he told him mistruth, is the fact that he made all of those searches about what to do post-death, does that establish, premeditation and deliberation before? And that's a question I have.
Well, do we even have a time of death? That's the thing, because when he made those searches, she could have been alive and he was planning it, or it could have been after, and therefore he was guilty after the fact, trying to dispose of the body. And so, I mean, I just would like more information on what evidence is going to be presented as to the time of death or injury to Anna.
Something I found really fascinating as we are recording this episode and publishing it, dropping it, the very last witness in the Brian Walsh case in the first week was a medical examiner. And a lot of us thought it was really interesting that the prosecution for the Commonwealth brought a medical examiner. There's no body, but he was going to be looking at articles of clothing that were recovered and the tools and some other things. And We don't know exactly what he's going to say, but there was a medical examiner that looked at some of the articles of evidence, and we got about that far into it, and the trial came to an end for the first week. So the second week of the trial is going to be fascinating, and may or may not answer some of your questions, but at least the questions were asked. I thought that was interesting that they had a medical examiner in a case where there's no body, didn't you?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I think they would need one, and I guess the medical examiner can study blood, and if there was tissue in the clothes that were in the trash and the tools, what whether the tools have her blood on it, because I would think they would also need a forensic expert to talk about the DNA. Whose DNA was it? Was it mixed? Was it just Anna and Brian's DNA? They're going to have that, I think. And I don't think the medical examiner can testify about DNA. It has to be somebody who, but he can certainly testify about the consistencies that, like, okay, according to so-and-so, this DNA is Anna's, and Anna's DNA was on part of this, hammer. So he can come to a conclusion. I just don't know how much weight the jury is going to give that, because there's no body.
Yeah, exactly. So those are questions. Those are good questions. It's all up in the air. But at the very end of the very first week in the Walsh trial, the judge queried the attorneys, and yeah, we're still on track for another 2 or 3 weeks of evidence. That's taking us right before Christmas. And so, they may have these witnesses that you're talking about. They may not. So it will be.
Go ahead.
Go
Sorry.
ahead. No.
Well, I actually like that the trial, from what I've watched, it seems to be going very professionally, very smoothly. It seems to be going, like, in terms of the procedures and things, it seems to be going well, I think.
The Judge Diane Frenier, seems to be extremely fair. She seemed a little bit unhappy on the Thursday of the first week, but she seems extremely fair. She seems to be moving it along. She has had the exhibits all pre-marked. There's a big stack of documents when the state police were on the stand, and they were all pre-marked, pre-numbered, pre-agreed to, so there were very few objections. The objections, by the way, were not all over at the sidebars. What happened was, as is my normal experience in the superior courts, is that there would be an objection in one word, objection relevance, objection whatever, and she would, from the bench, either sustain the objection or not sustain the objection. So it moved along really quickly. There were some sidebars, but no matter, but nothing at all like the sidebars that we saw in the Karen Reed trial. So it's moving along fairly well. I've got to say this, that Greg Connor, the prosecutor for the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office, is also extremely professional. He seems to be on the ball. He seems to be moving the case along. There's not a lot of dilly-dallying. He picks up the evidence. He shows it to the opposing side. May I approach? He shows it. He seems to be a real professional, and I'm not going to say anything about the prosecutors that tried the Karen Reed case, but this guy is a real professional, and he seems to be himself moving the thing along. I don't see any bias in the part of the judge either. She's treating both sides equally professionally and equally trying to move them along. So I don't see any bias.
And her facial expressions, like, she's making faces. She's just listening. She's pleasant, I guess. In terms of having a judge for a trial, she's not interfering or.
Right.
I mean, I had a trial where the judge kept interfering and saying, like, I don't know, kind of taking over the questioning where the questioning wasn't supposed to go that way. And I saw, some judges that do that, and she's not doing that. She did ask a couple of questions of one of the witnesses, I think.
Yes, but that shows, I saw the same thing. I've had that happen in my trials. Sometimes, we ask our questions and the other side asks their questions, but it's not that unusual, I've found, for the judge to interact. She has questions. Maybe she wants something in the record And seems to have real curiosity about what's going on in this case. And I see nothing wrong with that at all. I think that just shows that the bench is really trying to make sure that it's a fair, thorough trial.
Yeah.
So anyhow, please subscribe. We are at the end of this episode. We're not asking you for money. We're not asking you to contribute. We're not asking you to buy merch. But I want to bring in some of the holdovers from the Karen Reed trial to emphasize that if you subscribe, it's free.
Pay for a subscription?
I do not.
Ask it differently. I'm going to allow that.
Well, you know now because you follow. You pay for a subscription?
I do not.
Did you get one for free?
Yes. I was not paying to any social media.
All right, Mr. Brennan.
Sorry, I have just a few more questions.
It's denied.
I was not paying to any social media.
Okay.
Yoli, we started out this episode talking about Karen Reed's Lexus. We've gotten a little bit off track. That's okay, but my suggestion for an emoji for people to drop us if they've been with us the whole way through is a car, SUV, some type of a vehicle. Do you have any closing thoughts?
No, other than this just seems crazy, this whole thing about her car and them not wanting to fix it, and the Commonwealth spending so much money on experts that didn't even have credentials or said they did, but they didn't. It just seems not like nonsense to me.
No, I agree 100%. And the special prosecutor himself made $488,000 for about 6-7 months work. Not bad. Not bad. Thank you, people. Remember to be nice, be polite. You don't know what circumstances people are going through, and especially in our comment section, be nice. Whether you are in the grocery store, the gas station, or anywhere else, please remember to be kind to people. You don't know what they're going through. And the same goes for our comment section. We want you to comment, but be nice, be kind, be positive if you can. And thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Have a good one.